Hello and welcome to this weekly roundup of all things electric from the team at electrifying.com. This week we're going to be talking about the return of the motor show, curiously, and how I went to Paris and fell in love. We'll also, of course, be attempting to answer your electric car questions and dipping into the postbag to find out your views on last week's episode and what we were chatting about. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Ginny.
And I'm Vicky.
How are you, Vicky?
I'm all right, Ginny. How are you?
I'm a bit like you. I feel like the last few weeks and, in fact, the coming few weeks have been so busy. I think you and I need to go and lie down probably in a darkened room and have somebody bring us nice things to eat and drink.
I think so, yeah. It's been hectic. It's been fun, but very hectic. I do feel like I've barely been at home for a month now, so yeah.
You have been driving a lot of cars. The weird thing I found is that we thought we'd said goodbye to the motor show, didn't we? I mean,
Absolutely,
I was like, yeah. Can I just stop and apologise now? Because if you can hear this little noise, it's not me tapping my fingers. It's Ziggy running around the kitchen because, you know, that's what dogs do when you're recording a podcast, isn't it? And weirdly, how's your Ziggy doing? Because this is a little quirk we share, isn't it?
Yeah, so I have a Ziggy dog as well, and she's currently good. She's quiet. If she barks, you'll know because she's a big dog. So she does make quite a lot of noise.
So apologies on behalf of any interference. It's all down to the two Ziggies. Right, so motor shows. What's happened? Because I feel like for the last week, you and I have just been bouncing back and forth to each other. Oh, yeah, here's another email about a concept from Paris. Oh, here's some more photographs of something else. It's gone nuts. I thought we'd said goodbye to motor shows, didn't you?
Yeah, I sort of did really. I mean, I know that it's been everybody's sort of been saying that they're done for the last few years, but Paris really does seem to have kicked off, as you say, particularly with the French manufacturers. So I think maybe it's just that we finally got a real resurgence of interesting cars, and there's now a lot to talk about in terms of cheaper electric cars and performance electric cars and all sorts of things. So maybe it's just now that they've got the products they want to show off. I'm not sure.
It is. And I think, you know, there was lots of this stuff of like just releasing a car away from a motor show. But when you're really transforming a whole product range, which is what the French are doing, and I think both, you know, Citroën, Peugeot and Renault have really gone for it with electric in a way that, you know, makes you go, hi, Ford, all over there. How you doing? Yeah. You know, do you want to look at what the French are up to? But so that's probably, you know, they've got a lot to talk about, haven't they? So should we rattle through a few? Do you want to take... What do you want to take? Do you want to take Citroën and Peugeot and I'll do Renault?
Go on then, I'll do Citroën and Peugeot. So, Citroën, well, they've got the new EC4 and EC4X, which are technically facelifts, but they're quite big facelifts. It does look quite different. And you can check out the video on that as well from Nicola. And that is, so that's kind of that. Updated AMI. I love the AMI. I mean, you know, that's all good.
I know. We do love the AMI. Nicola's seen that actually already. She had a little sneak preview.
Right.
I went, because Nicola went to do that video, as you said, on the Citroëns, and they showed her and she said it's even cuter. I didn't know if that was possible.
I love the AMI. It's so cool. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. There is Peugeot has got big battery cars, new E408. I quite like the 408. I think that could be quite an interesting car.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then they've also got a sort of mysterious concept that we sort of don't know very much about, which is always quite exciting. So, yeah, Peugeot and Citroën have got a reasonable amount going on, I have to say. But we'll see. So that should all come out fairly soon. And it's just good to see them at the show and showing things off and having products that we can talk about, really.
It's really interesting. And I think what we're going to do is really old school actually next week. So I'm going over to Paris for the day and we've got loads of videos dropping actually. So if you aren't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, do, because we've got videos on a ton of things that we're going to be seeing at Paris arriving. In fact, by the time you listen to this, we'll have seen a new car from Alpine. We've had the Twingo, which we did a walk around video, which went out earlier this week. But we're going to do a little walk around roundup as well of the things that we've not managed to do specific videos on. So we'll try and get that live as quick as we can next week. But Vic, it's Renault Group for me that have just gone nuts. I mean, have these guys not slept in the last year? They literally must have been. I don't think they can have been. So we saw the 5 this year, which we firmly established that we really love. I'm off to drive it tomorrow. You've driven it.
Yeah.
But at Paris, I've lost count of the number of production cars, show cars, concepts, design studies that they're showing. So we are going to see the Renault 4 E-Tech, which we can't talk about, but that video will be dropping on the Monday. What date is it? Monday I want to say
the 14th.
14th, Monday the 14th. So if you're watching this after the 14th, you can go and check that out on the YouTube channel. We've seen the Twingo already. I'll come back to that in a minute. They're showing that Renault 17, that Resto mod that we've talked about on the podcast, which looks amazing. And I think comes in the best colour I've ever heard, because they've managed to make brown sound like something we all want, because they're calling it galactic brown, which I really... Yeah, I mean, it's really fit, that thing. I love it. We'll talk about the Twizzy a bit more in detail, because Twizzy's coming back. We've had the Renault Emblème, which is their sort of, let's keep everybody happy. You don't have to argue about whether it's electric or it's hydrogen, because the Renault Emblème has both. And it's a bit of a design study and a concept at this stage, but they're saying that they're combining hydrogen fuel cell, aren't they, with an electric motor for a range of over 600 miles. So the idea being you'd use electric for your more local journeys and you'd switch to hydrogen for longer. We will get loads of angry comments in the comments below about that one, won't we, Vicky? Because it's so contentious, that argument.
Yeah, so it's got a battery and a hydrogen fuel cell, because obviously hydrogen fuel cells are electric motors anyway, isn't it? So it's got a battery and a hydrogen fuel cell, which is not... Somebody else did that years ago, didn't they? They did a sort of hydrogen range extender. Was it Audi? Possibly. I'm sure somebody did a concept, but... I
can't remember. And actually... I've asked that question if anybody knew, because I thought it was the first time that I'd seen that. But yeah, if you do know, I have a feeling you might be right. If, dear listeners, you know the answer to that one, do let us know. You can drop us a line at podcast@electrifying.com, or you can let us know in the comments below. What else have they had? Renault have also got that lovely little, they're bringing that van back, aren't they? And what's the name of this? The Estafette.
Oh, yes.
Estafette concept, which is
it's very cool.
From the 60s, but it's not, retro. It's same footprint as a Kangoo. Looks really nice. It looks very cute. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I think Alpine have got in on the action as well.
Indeed.
So they've got that hydrogen concept thing, the Alpine Glow. That's going to be there for people that haven't seen that. But they've got this follow-up to... They're calling their electrification plan the creation of a dream garage, aren't they, basically? And they were saying that the first one is the A290, which is the hot hatch. And they're following this up with the Alpine A390. And we have got... we'll have a video coming soon about that, but you can read about it over on Electrifying. And it's basically fitting in around the sort of Porsche Macan... Polestar 4 type rival. It's nuts, isn't it? Have you had a look at it? What did you think of the pictures?
I did. Yeah, I don't know. After the A290, which I love, because I mean the A290 is a Renault 5, is the Alpine's take on the Renault 5, and I think that looks spectacular. I want one immediately, if not two, possibly. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is just a little bit of my being a dinosaur, being a little bit sort of performance SUV intolerant these days kind of thing. And I say that in that, I love a Macan and a Cayenne, and I think, I get it. I do really like them. But Alpine is very close to my heart. The Alpine A110, sorry, electric car fans, I know that's petrol, but it is still one of my favourite cars of all time.
It's a brilliant car. It is.
I love it. And I think, I hope that the A290 has something of that purist driving style to it. And I look at the A390 and I just go, just doesn't look like I want it. Even like an Alpine SUV, it looks a bit fussy to me. But I'm open-minded. All I've done is had a glance through the photos. So I'm all for it. If Alpine can make it handle brilliantly, go for it.
I'll give that. It's a really sort of... mental car, though, if I'm honest. When I saw it, I was like, okay, so it's a concept. Obviously, you've got this kind of crazy interior that's all F1 inspired. So you've got, bucket seats that you can rotate forwards or backwards, and you've got, an F1 style steering wheel that when you rotate the seat backwards, the steering wheel contracts, so it becomes small and kind of F1-y, like something out of an F1 car. But then there were also on the back seats miniature skiers and snow. Like little tiny skiers. And I was like, okay, what's that about? And then obviously you get the press, conference, and you start to look at the press pack, and it's been inspired by the mountains and Formula One.
Of
So
course.
there's loads of really nutty things on it, like little miniature skiers, and then lots of stuff that looks like ice and and snow around it. So it's got these kind of cool illuminated lights on, illuminated emblems on each of the wheels. It's got an extendable rear diffuser, and there's a lot of really cool stuff on it. And I think the problem with that is that they said the car was 85% there, and you can absolutely guarantee that the bits that are really cool on that car will not be in the 85% of the car that's there. It will actually just look a lot more normal than that. Whereas I think, like you said, the A290 just looks great, looks brilliant. I just worry this will just look a bit like a big SUV. Well, like saloony crossover thing.
Fastback. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm trying to remain open-minded. If I don't get mini skiers in the back of my A390 production car, though, I will be disappointed. So
that is exactly what I said in the video. They have to have it on an options list if it is not there, actually. But they're skiing down the back seat, which is a bit like a mountain slope.
I want a small model of the Alps in the back of the car. Because it's all about lightness of weight, obviously. It's all about purist stuff. Love it. Fair enough.
In the press conference, Vicky, they said that it has been inspired by the mountain light that comes over the mountains in the morning.
Well, the Alpine marketing team, they've had a lot of time on their hands, haven't they?
We've heard some bullshit in our time in press conference, haven't we? Wow.
Yeah.
Should we go back to possibly the car that I'm most excited about ever, even though we don't really know anything about it at all? It's the Twingo. I went to Paris. I saw the Twingo. I fell in love with it. There's nothing more to tell about it. So basically we just got to see it for the first time in the metal, but it is so incredibly cute. It's a really nice sort of retake on the original. And I think if they can nail the pricing on it, because they're talking about it being sub £17,000, around £90 a month, if they can get it anywhere near that, I think it's a hell of a lot of car for the money. It looks lovely. Haven't seen an interior, but looking at what they're doing with interiors now, you look at the one on the Renault 4, it looks great. The scenic interior is good. It will have a nice interior. And the really interesting thing about this is they're trying to get it to market really quickly, because cars take years and years, don't they, to go from into production. So they're doing it in 2 years, and they're doing this by working in collaboration with a Chinese engineering company who's doing all the hardware, all of that stuff, the battery, the motors, all of that. And then they're doing the design in Paris. So they're effectively working around the clock on it.
Wow.
So it's really, and I was chatting to one of the design team and she was just saying, it's a really interesting experiment. Yes, we're having a lot of late meetings and a lot of early Zoom calls. So I think it's, I am really excited to see, because we've seen affordable electric cars, the Elite Motor and the Dacia Spring, and they're nice, they're good, but this just feels aspirational and special and lovely, even though we don't know much about it yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's, I completely agree. I love the Twingo. I think it's, I just remember, because it looks quite like the Mark 1, the original Twingo, which obviously didn't come to the UK, but has sort of gained a bit of a cult following anyway. People really liked it. I mean, have you ever been in the original Twingo? It's got so much space in it for a tiny little car, and it's just, and you can get in, and it's just incredible how sort of much room you feel like you've got. It's such a clever little car.
Yeah. They had two originals there actually, and I did sit inside one of them, and I think the thing that struck me was just how lovely and simple it was.
Yes,
the simplicity of cars then. And you look now, particularly with electric, at all the screens and the information and the stuff that's going on, and the ADAS systems and the beeps and the bangs and the bongs. And it did make me feel a bit wistful for a car that just has a gearbox and a steering wheel and a brake.
Yeah, or do you remember, in fact, we talked about this last week with Tom, I think, but the Volkswagen Up and the electric Volkswagen Up, one of the things I really loved about it is that it was so straightforward, because obviously it was just an Up, but it had an electric motor. But it, I think after a while they didn't even do it with the screen, did they? They just did it with a mobile phone holder. Is that right?
And actually,
I just thought that makes so much sense. It's great.
So much sense, and that's the thing I really like about cars like the Ami. You just have the simplicity of the Ami. You just have a little cute holder to put your phone in, and there it is, and there it goes. And I
think if they do the Twingo, has the Twingo got a touchscreen on the concept? I take it.
There's no. sorry, excuse me, no interior. It's a
Okay.
full-on show car, so it was only the exterior. That's all we
Yeah.
saw. Nothing, you couldn't, there's no signs of any
See.
interior yet. And I kind of hope that, I know it'll look cool because the interior on the Renault 5 looks cool, but I hope that they don't do too much to the interior. It would be
Yeah.
nice if it is a bit pared back. And the Twizzy is back.
Yay, Twizzy! I love the Twizzy.
I know. It's yeah. I mean, it's not called a Twizzy though, which is a shame. Makes me a bit sad. It's going to be produced by a new Renault sub-brand. How many sub-brands do Renault have, by the way? They seem to have a lot.
I don't know. They do, I know. Well, as we've established, they're very busy people at the moment.
They are. So the Twizzy is coming back under the brand name Mobilise with the Duo and the Bento. They're production ready, so they look a bit concepty, but they are production ready. So I think that'll be nice to get that back, and it will be coming to the UK as well.
That's good. I've got a real thing for this sort of last mile stuff. That's because I know they've done a sort of delivery van version, haven't they, and all this kind of thing. I think there is, I know that at the moment it's a very niche thing, but I do think that there's a lot of common sense in that. Do you know what I mean? There are a lot of very niche, last mile, really low mileage kind of delivery jobs where those would be fine, I think. So I do like that idea. I think it's just going to take a bit of time to take off, but one day I think they'll be everywhere, probably in the big cities. But
and it is, again, it's a very specific thing for a big city, isn't it? But it makes, like you say, it makes complete sense. I think I remember reading that the average speed in central London is something like 12 miles an hour. So
if you're lucky, I think.
If you're lucky. Yeah, absolutely. So we've been very focused on the French car makers, quite rightly, because they've got a lot going on. Oh, we forgot to mention, did I mention the Renault 4? We did mention the Renault 4.
Yeah, but we can't talk about it yet because of embargoes and things, can we? I mean, all I'd say on that is that the old Renault 4, again, I loved it. Very basic, very straightforward, to the point, utilitarian car. So I hope that something of that utilitarianness and value comes through in the 4. But I don't know much about it, so I look forward to seeing it.
Well, I have seen it, and there is a walk-around video of that car.
Don't talk about it, Ginny. Don't say it. Don't say anything.
But I'm not allowed to say a word. Me and embargoes, I always stick to them. I can't possibly comment. That's something for next week's podcast to talk about. But if you are listening to this after the 14th, then you'll know, because we'll have a video of it on the website.
Check it out then.
Okay, so let's put France and French cars, as wonderful as that is, to one side. Let's talk about Voxel.
Yes,
you and Nicola
Voxel.
have both driven the Grandland Electric.
Indeed, another embargo there that's just lifted. So first driving videos all out there. I think this is quite an important car for Voxel. It's the traditional sort of mid-sized family SUV that everybody's got. So it's really important that they have a competitive car. So I mean, the number of rivals that the Grandland's got, and you can get this with a hybrid or a electric motor, the Grandland. But I mean, you're talking everything: Tesla Model Y, ID4, Renault Scenic, Skoda Enyaq. There's just hundreds of rivals. So it's very competitive. And I think my problem with the Grandland is that it's fine, but it just doesn't stand out. There's just nothing exceptional about it to me. I don't know. I just think it's reasonable value. So it starts at £41,000, and that's for a range of 325 miles, WLTP that is. So not bad, but still not as good as the Scenic for value and range. And it's really smart inside, but it's just fine to drive. It's nothing exceptional. I thought the ride was a bit poor. And it's like, look, you should watch Nicola's video because it's really good. And she had a thing with her car where she noticed that the body control on it seemed to be particularly noticeable, even under braking. So quite a lot of longitudinal movement on the car. You see it sort of wobble around when you come to a complete stop. And she really struggled with that. Yeah, you can really see it on the video. I am conscious that I didn't really find that in the car I drove out in Denmark. So I'm a bit on the fence about whether there may have been something a little bit up with that car that she drove. But those are the cars they drove on the launch. They're representative. So that's the car she reviewed. And I don't know, maybe I just didn't pick up on it. But it's a funny thing because it looked really noticeable on the video.
You can really see it.
I don't remember it. Yeah.
I think, having spoken to Nicola about it, and she was saying that it was not just her, that she wasn't the only one that noticed it.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
And part of me also, the cynic in me will say, why were you driving that car, Vicky? Might it have been in your role as a juror for European Car of the Year? And where those cars, they would have probably been prepped to the, to the I don't know. I don't know.
Well, maybe maybe I just didn't pick up on it. It did have a lot of body lean, a lot of body movement, the car I drove, but I didn't specifically notice that it was that hard to just brake smoothly to a complete halt. And that was what I
Yeah.
thought was particularly noticeable in Nicola's film, and she rightly picked up on it. So I think
Yeah.
ultimately the Grandland, I think it looks all right. What do you
Okay.
feel about the illuminated badges and all of that stuff? Because I'm not a bit on the fence about whether I actually like that or not. I don't know whether I find it a bit chintzy and gaudy and a bit, oh, look at me. I can't make my mind up.
Oh, I
But
like
yeah.
sparkly things. I'm a terrible judge of anything like this because if it's got a bit of glitter on and some sparkle, I'm there. I'll have it. Please me. I suspect I quite like it. I found it very disappointing on the Fisker Ocean that you couldn't get the illuminated badge that they could have in the States because it looked really nice. I very strongly suspect that I'm going to love this on about the first 3 cars that I see it on, and then I'm going to be like, no, just bring back a metal badge, please.
Yeah, I feel the
Yeah,
same. In the
that's
same
my.
way that when the light bar at the back of a car became really novel and interesting, and you were like, oh, it looks like a spaceship. And then about 3 cars later,
Yeah.
everybody had it. And suddenly it was just just a bit of a cliche almost.
Yeah.
And I
But
quite like a light bar still, but everything has it. So it's one of those things, isn't it? You just get used to it. But yeah,
but yeah,
see.
if it's shiny and it's new, basically I'll love it for a bit and then I'll fall out of it because I'm with love with it because I'm really fickle. Shall we? We've got no Barnard's bargain of the week this week. I'm sorry. We'll have a double bargain next week because he's off driving things and looking at things, and we've not been able to get hold of him. So we'll
He's
come
looking
back
at
with.
old car auctions. You know that, don't you? That's probably what he's doing.
He has told me he's gone to drive 2 very interesting Chinese-made new cars,
Oh,
Vicky. So let's,
wow.
okay. But he's
We'll
probably doing
see.
a bit of that as well. Right, Carline questions. Chris Bees, who sent in an email to podcast@electrifying.com. I love the podcast. Thank you very much. That's so nice of you, Chris. I started watching it around episode 40, I think. Look at you. You've got loads to catch up on, haven't you? As we're thinking about getting our first electric car to replace our second car, thinking of getting a Megane E-Tech, not sure on new or used yet, it got me looking into new car tax rules coming in April 2025. I'm unable to find a definitive answer. But if I were to buy an EV now with 12 months road tax, would I be required to pay from April? Or will it be when the 12-month tax period expires? Would also appreciate some buying advice on a Megane or a suitable vehicle to replace our ICE at 2020-208. Got a baby on the way, so need extra space. Keep up the good work. And it's fine to mention the Enyaq whenever possible. It looks a great car. Chris, I'm with you on that. Right, there's a lot
What
to
about the
unpick
Volkswagen
there.
ID7 though? You've got to mention the Volkswagen ID7 as well. Come on. Anyway,
All right.
especially the Tourer. Buy that.
Right. So you went off and did some research, and you've got the answer to this one. Do I need to get my paper and pen out and write some notes on this? It sounds complicated, Vicky.
Yes, indeed. So everybody get your notebook ready because the tax rules are a bit complicated. Now, we have actually mentioned this before, but if you buy an electric car now, whether it is new or used, and it therefore has 12 months of tax paid up front on it, then that's paid. That's fine. So you're taxed until October next year. So in the very short answer to that question is that no, you won't have to then pay a higher rate as of April because the car's already taxed. So that's fine. But if you buy a car after April 1st next year, then obviously you are subject to those new tax rules. So if you buy a new car as of April the 1st next year, then that means that you pay £10 in the first year. That's fine. And then £190 per year thereafter, which is a flat rate. And it's frustrating because it makes it sort of more expensive than some non-electric cars, which is a bit mad. And on top of that, as of April next year, so EVs are becoming subject to the premium car tax, which has been around for a while.
Yeah.
So if it costs more than £40,000 per list price. And I would also add that does include options. So if you have a car that's the list price of 38,000 and then you add £2,500 of options, that means the list price is 40,500 and you are subject to that tax. So do keep an eye on your options as well. So unfortunately the premium car tax is £410 per year after the first year. So you still pay a tenner that first year, and then from the first birthday of the car, effectively, you pay an additional £410 per year on top of the £190. So that's £600 per year tax, and that continues for 5 years because the premium car tax lasts for 5 years. So from the first to the 6th birthday of the car, effectively, you get that additional premium car tax. And I would also add that we don't know whether the £190 flat rate that's currently applicable will go up at all, obviously. So we don't know. That's subject to change too. So yeah, it's a bit gutting, really. If you buy a used electric car now, then as of April the 1st, 2025, that will be subject to the new rules, which means that you pay £190 per year, but you don't have the premium car tax, of course. That's only new cars. So there you go. So if you buy your used Megane right now, and it has 12 months tax, then you're fine until October 2025, and then you will owe £190 per year.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that.
No, me neither.
It seems very mean. And also, excuse me, coffee today. Would you? So there's that £40,000 cut off.
Yeah.
Would you say the Grandland Electric is a premium car?
No,
that should
not
be
really.
Yeah, there's
This
a
is
lot
the
of
problem,
cars.
though, isn't it?
Yeah, it to put. I don't know. It's a funny one. Anyway, it is what it is. In terms of the advice on the Megane or another suitable vehicle, obviously consider an Enyaq is basically all I'll say to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, seriously though, a used Enyaq would be a great shout. The Megane,
Yeah.
I think the Megane's really underrated. We've talked about that before. I really like
Yeah.
the Megane actually. I think a used Megane is a good shout. Or I mean, there's often there has to be said the Mark One, the Kia e-Niro is still a great family car because the boot's not far off the size of the Megane. Actually, it's pretty much the same size, I'd say, and you get probably cheaper to buy. It's quite decent, so I'd consider that.
And then we're getting all this new stuff coming through, like cars like the Kia EV3, which again, some really good sort of family cars coming through that are, around the 30s. So depending on if you want new or used, something like that might be worth looking at as well.
Yeah. Well,
Go on, sorry.
Absolutely. I was just going to say you could actually look at the Scenic too, because obviously there'll be used ones of those coming out, sort of year or two old. You could check out the electrifying.com classified. It's got loads of really good used cars there, and the Scenic's really good. I like the Scenic. I know we've got a few little quibbles, but it's a good family car. So it's
a good car. It's a really nice car to drive. Yeah, I think efficiency. I'm a bit mixed on that at the minute, but anyway, right. Welcome to the EV Club. This week, or should we say welcome to the Citroen EC4 Club. So we've got Stephen John Hogg, who is now part of the Electric Car Club. Hooray!
Hey.
I got the Scottish Government grant, which is absolutely brilliant. So this is a grant that the government offers in Scotland on used electric cars. And Stephen spent that on a Citroen EC4 with 1,500 miles. Couldn't be happier with the tech inside. She drives amazing. What have you called her, Stephen? Let us know. Go on. Do you want to do the next one? Good luck with that name.
Oh, thanks for that, Ginny. Yeah, really enjoy that. Okay, so this is, I'm going to say Gregor Kowalski, 685. Yeah. That's what I'm going to go with. Apologies if it's not correct. We got our first EV in August, a Citroen EC4, again, another EC4. We paid £21,000 with just 700 miles on the clock. That is good. What a great car. We had a Jag XF 2.2 diesel before, also very nice, and had constant problems with the EGR valve or DPF filter. Oh dear. I'm not going back to petrol or diesel cars. Well, welcome to the club. And also, I do like an EC4, very cushy and comfy and great value. So yeah, good choice.
Really comfy car and some good deals on them as well, because of course we've got a new model coming out, haven't we? So yes, we had one from Gillan Johnston, who we have to welcome to the club because they bought an Enyaq 85 purely based on Ginny's review and comments about it. Sorry. I've done 20,000 miles since marching it up here in the northwest Scottish Highlands and love it, but do think woeful charging infrastructure is damaging to the future of EVs. I agree. It's not very good in many areas of the country and parts of the Highlands being one of them. But the interesting question is, so Gillan is currently on holiday in the Netherlands. Hope you're having a lovely time. And passed a sign for a BYD car with a claim range of 1,000 kilometres. Do you know what model it is? And is it anything close to being true? I hadn't heard about this. Had you heard about it? I mean, there's been a lot of cars that have come out and claimed that, and it's obviously a big figure, 1,000 kilometres, a bit of a holy grail. And I think the only thing I can find is that this is a concept car built to promote, well, it's not a new platform now, but their sort of e-platform 3, which has got cars like the Seal and the Dolphin on it. And that was a car called the BYD Ocean X, and it was a concept car showcasing a range of up to 1,000 kilometres and really crazy fast charging. So unless anybody out there knows more and can prove me wrong, I suspect that was maybe just some kind of advertising featuring a concept car. Because as far as I know, as much as it would be great to say we're not there with 1,000 kilometres on a full charge yet in any car.
No. I'm sure I saw, some stuff about Neo doing 1,000 kilometre car. I think also solid state batteries in China, this kind of thing. Although I haven't actually seen any evidence of that coming to production yet and this kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a few cars out there claiming it, but they're all concepts. So I think we're a way off seeing that in the real world, to be honest. Right, okay, so we have had quite a few people get in touch about whether cars are too boring in terms of their design now. So I think this is off the back of possibly some of the comments we made in the last podcast.
Yeah.
So we had a message from at BMW HP2, snappy name there. Thanks, EV team, for our weekly 30 minutes of EV info fun. You're very welcome. I think most EVs are generic because the designers all use AI fed by wind tunnel programs. The result? Endless lines of deadly boring four-door sedans and SUVs. Once the overall concept is ready, the designers themselves can only add some gimmicky things to liven things up.
Oh,
interesting.
I know a couple of designers very reasonably well, and I think they would probably get quite upset at that comment. I think there is a little bit more to it than that, but
yeah.
I agree that I think we get a lot of cars that do look similar in certain sections of the market because there is a limit to what you can do. And obviously with EVs, there's such a big focus on aero and things as well, just making it as efficient as possible. But yeah, I think to say that they all use AI fed by wind tunnel programs is probably a little bit simplistic.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think I think there is quite a lot of generic designs out there, but then I do think that, I know that designers put a lot more into it than just that.
Yeah.
And yes, aerodynamics is a big aspect. Hence, you get the sort of Tesla and Mercedes EQ cars looking, similar shape and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know where you're coming from, but I think that's probably an oversimplification, to be fair.
It is. And then David Spencer on that subject said, non-boring EVs would be the Yo-Yo, the Carver, and pretty much every weird two-seater with no fast charge capability. So you'll be loving the new Mobilise, the return of the Twizzy then. You'll be a big fan of those because they're all... So the Yo-Yo is a bit like a Twizzy, isn't it? Or a Silenso, that other little sort of quadricycle thing. And then the Carver is a three-wheeler that looks terrifying and I don't really ever want to go in. Personally, so and I think I would agree that they're not boring, but I think technically they're not cars either, are they?
No, wasn't the Carver that thing that actually leans over as it goes around the corners and stuff? That was I'd quite like a go in that, but then I am a bit crazy like that. I'd really want to go in one of those. It looks great fun.
You're far less sensible than I am. We've established that long ago. Right, should we move on to the L-Rock? We had lots of questions about the L-Rock. Gary Blesmer, hi Gary, said, I'm with Ginny on this. I love the look of the mini Enyaq, the L-Rock. It's much better than the EV3 or the Volvo. I think Skoda have done a great job with removing the badge from the bonnet and steering wheel and just putting the name. There we go. Yeah. Thumbs up for the L-Rock. What else? Do you want to take another one, Vic?
Yes, go on then. So another L-Rock. The L-Rock looks exactly like my Kona facelift. Oh, does it? That's according to @KeySirXX. And I like it. It's rear-wheel drive, which I think all EVs should be for general common sense. Interesting.
And Graham Smith has just given us a great idea for a future twin test. Looking forward to the video comparing the L-Rock and the EV3. There'll be a lot we can do in that test, won't there? There's going to be loads of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've also heard from @Colin Good E3702. Skoda are very late to this party. We traded our ICE Karoq in for a used Kona electric because we wanted something electric and smaller than the Karoq with a decent range. The L-Rock looks to be the same size as the Karoq, so probably not for us. As a result, we'll have to wait for a used Skoda Epic to replace our Kona in 2 years' time. We'll definitely not be considering the buttonless and driver displayless EX30. Yeah, interesting. Well, there you go. So yeah, it's interesting that there are a lot of people out there actively wanting compact cars. I think sometimes that's slightly overlooked as an actual advantage of a car that, when it is smaller. So back to the Renault 5, it's one of the reasons I really love it because it's sub 4 meters, so it's a proper small car. But yeah, interesting with the, waiting for the next Skoda.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also, I have heard quite a few people say they wouldn't consider the EX30 because of the screens and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, it's very
yeah.
divisive, isn't it? But talking about the Renault 5, Richard Piper left a message directed at you, Vicky. If Vicky is getting palpitations after having driven the Renault 5, which I think is fair, you cannot imagine how doolally I feel waiting for my Alpine A290. We're so jealous!
What?
Oh,
no.
no. Oh, my goodness me. We're so jealous of you. You must tell us. You must drop us a line or send us a voice note or something. We need to.
Yeah.
You could email us a voice note once you've got it and let us know what you think about it. We'll find a way to play it.
Yeah.
Okay, but then just going back to this subject of big cars and car sizes. Tim Scott 3027 has said, please don't encourage people to buy massive cars like an Ioniq 5 just because they have one child. I've got by my whole life with super minis running around one or two kids and stuff. It's a massive misconception that you need all that space. It is true, isn't it? We do categorise the car industry and we fall into that trap. This is a C segment family car and these are all a certain type of car. But actually, I had a Peugeot E208 as a family car for ages and that was fine. It got a bit complicated with the dog at times, but he's a small dog, so that was all right. So it's a really good, valid point, actually. You don't necessarily need a car with loads of range, but you also don't necessarily need a really big car, do you? It's just a personal choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just about finding the car that's right for your lifestyle. I've got 2 dogs as well, and they're far more hassle than my one child. But I do remember having it when I had a baby and a dog and stuff. Then I did feel like I just lugged all this stuff around. I'm sure I don't need it, but I did find having a big car quite useful. But then I've lived with BMW i3 and Peugeot E208 and all sorts of little cars since then, and it's absolutely fine. So yeah, you don't need it. It's up to what you can live with, really.
And should we just finish? Do you want to just finish on this final one from Steve, which is on this same theme as well? And I think it's quite a nice one to end on, actually.
Yeah, so we heard from Steve, who says, I find it mildly irritating how you talk about city cars so much when reviewing small EVs with limited range. The Twingo first look pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
Small range EVs are perfectly suited for any location, agreed. City, town, suburb, countryside, as long as they aren't doing most of their mileage on a motorway. Please stop artificially limiting these cars when they are perfectly usable as a short distance car in any location. Well, yes, but I would add, yes, I mean, basically, I agree, but I think this may be a slight issue with the fact the way we classify cars in the car market is that small cars have always been the Ford Fiesta, etc. City cars have always been those cars that are smaller than that. So yes, you're absolutely right. I think it's just a bit of a naming situation that we're used to calling these little cars city cars.
Yeah, when you've been doing this for a very, very long time and you've sat through about 1 million press conferences and launches of cars, you do get this, like we've said, this is this car and this is where it fits. But you're absolutely right. And actually in the Twingo video, I know I did call it a city car, but I did also say that, it's going to be the car. It's unlike the original, it's not, or the previous models, it's not going to leave you breaking out into a cold sweat when you try to join the motorway on a slip road. So yes, the Twingo will have a lower range, but it will be a great car for a lot of different situations, as are many of them. You're absolutely right. So yeah, we will. Do you know what? I'll take that point on board. And next time I look at a small car, I will not call it a city car. I will say I will rethink that and come up with some new descriptions for it. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Steve.
And actually, on that note, I would add that I'm actually conscious of this myself, and I didn't call the Renault 5 a city car anywhere in any of our reviews because I think that would be misleading. So, and that's sub 4 meters, so a lot of people would call that a city car, but I've called it small car for that very reason. So hopefully that pleased you at least. And I know the Renault 5 is a little bit chunkier than the Twingo for sure, but there you go. It's all about classifications, isn't it?
We're officially banning city car as a phrase from everything electrifying. They are now just going to be small cars that work for lots of different purposes. Thank you. Okay. Right then, gang, I think we probably need to wrap this up because, as always, it's definitely not been a kilowatt half hour, has it, Vicky?
No, never is.
I feel better, though. I felt quite stressed earlier because it's been so busy, but just talking it all out has been good, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree, actually. It's like a therapy session.
It is.
Car-based therapy.
That's perhaps another podcast, car-based therapy.
Definitely.
I like that. So please do let us know your comments, and you can do that either by dropping a comment in YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the comments below. If you're listening on your streaming service, still please leave us a comment, leave us a like, follow us, share it if you can. And as always, you can drop us a line at podcast@electrifying.com. But we'll be back next week with all the news from the Paris Motorshow. Until then.